Mr. Loverman, what's good, guys? Welcome back to our second episode, Style in the Kitchen, Soul on the Plate. I am Chef B, and today I'm going to teach you how to make my infamous Mr. Loverman pasta. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, I want to thank everyone who watched our very first episode, everyone who subscribed, everyone who shared, everyone who liked. Let's have a toast. Let's get into it. First, we have a pot of boiling water. And what you want to do to your water is you'll add some crushed black pepper and you'll add some salt. And to the boiling water, just get us a stir. And we're going to add in our penne pasta is what I preferably like to use. But you can use whatever you like. If you like bow tie pasta, if you like spaghetti, just use whatever you like. The thing I like most about this dish is that it's very flavorful and it's super creamy. One thing that I hate is a dry pasta. So just give this a little stir and let it sit while you work on your veggies. So here we're gonna cut our yellow peppers, our red peppers, and our green peppers because we're gonna essentially add this to our pasta. And if you don't like it, you don't have to use it, but we're just gonna kind of add it for some color. So once you give your peppers a long slice, we're gonna now begin to clean our fresh red snapper that we got from our local market. Put these gloves on before y'all eat me up in the comments. Let's get into it. So to a bowl, you want to take your red snapper, pour a little lime, little lemon on it, whatever you like, and just begin to clean. So I say these are about 4 or 5 pound snappers that we have here, and you just want to rub it on each side really good. If you're going to buy your snappers from the market, make sure that they are cleaned and the scales have been removed on the side. We're going to add some white wine vinegar also to help with the cleaning process, and we're just going to continue to give this a little rub. Make sure this baby is nice and cleaned. So after you finish cleaning, we're just gonna turn it on the side and lightly score the side of the snapper. And please don't cut all the way through. You just wanna score it so that way when we begin the seasoning is all the way through the back. And this also helps with the cooking process because these snappers are kind of big. And this is kind of how you want your snapper to look. This dish is a perfect dish to make if you're dating any Caribbean woman and you're trying to cosplay like you're from Jamaica or from the Caribbean. She won't know what you got going on. So I say just make this, she won't even figure it out. So you want to cook your pasta until it's al dente. As you can see, it's ready. We're gonna dump the water off the pasta and then we're gonna make our cream for the sauce. So now we're gonna begin to make our cream sauce. We set our noodles aside so that way they can cool off. And we're going to pour some milk and heavy cream into a pot. And we're gonna begin to season. Now, one thing that was memorable to me about this dish is the way it derived. This dish came from me trying to impress someone who was Caribbean. And so I made up this whole bodacious story about how I just came from Jamaica and apparently I needed money to kind of stay in the country. We'll get back into that, but for right now, let's start working on the snapper. So to your heavy cream and milk mixture, we're gonna just start seasoning this baby up to give it a little kick. So we're gonna use some Grace's jerk season and we're gonna whisk this all the way through. And while you're whisking this through, we're just gonna add our own little seasoning to this baby, just to give it some flavor. So we got a little garlic powder. Oh, that was more than a little garlic powder. We got some onion powder here. Then we'll use some seasoned salt. We're gonna use some thyme. And if your heavy cream starts to rise, turn the flame down. We're gonna add a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of salt, just a little bit of allspice. And I'll say for each one of these ingredients, you can use like a tablespoon. And we're gonna whisk all of this through. If you like it spicy, I'll say you can go in with a little bit more seasoning. And they do have mild and they also have spicy. So it's really whatever your preference is. Now, when I make my pasta, what I do like to do is, I like my pasta a little thick. To some cold water, you can add some flour, self-rising, all-purpose. It doesn't really matter. And you can also add some cornstarch. And what we're doing is just whisking this through. And please make sure your whisk is rubber like this one. And it's like a non-stick whisk to make sure that you get all the lumps and the clumps out of your cornstarch and flour mixture. Now back into the story. So the young lady I met, her name was Nancy. Her features like a bunch of roll. Nah, I'm just kidding. Her name was Shelly Ann, but essentially we met at a restaurant that we both used to work at. And we couldn't let anyone know that we were dating. So I concocted this big story up and I told her that I was Jamaican and I had just come into the country. And her dad owned the restaurant that we both worked at. And so I told her that I was Jamaican. I had this thick, heavy Jamaican accent. And while we worked together, you know, we spent more time. We hung out throughout the kitchen and we began to date. This dish in particular was one of the dishes that she loved that I made. So what I used to do is I used to steal fish from the restaurant and bring it home. Oh, so what I'm doing now is pouring the thickener inside of the sauce mixture that we're making. And it's just gonna give it a little thick. So if you can see it, so again, yeah, I used to steal fish from the restaurant to make for her because I didn't want to pay for the fish, right? And so we started dating. She absolutely loved my snapper, and we eventually moved in together. Now, the funny thing about this story is I told her that throughout the time of me coming, I kind of snuck into the country and I was pretty much an immigrant, right? And so she wanted to help me get my papers, and I carried out this lie all throughout our relationship, so much so that she took me down to immigration probably about 3 or 4 times. And what was most embarrassing is I used to have to wait inside while she waited outside for me the entire time. So as you can see, the sauce is thickening up, and this is how you want it to look, just like this. And that's why these Rubbermaid whisks are absolutely essential. So that way nothing sticks, because once you add this flour and water thickener, everything is just gonna get real gooey. We're gonna add a bit more to this. So to the bowl with your fish, you wanna add a little bit, maybe like 2 tablespoons of seasoning salt, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, same tablespoon of garlic. We're gonna add some fresh thyme, maybe a little bit too much thyme. We're gonna add a little bit of the salt to this, and we're just gonna mix this through. But we're gonna massage it in. So you wanna massage this into your fish to make sure everything is nice and seasoned and it's incorporated in. If you don't have enough seasoning, just add a little bit more on each side, because you wanna make sure the bigger the fish, the more flavorful. So we're just gonna hit this with a little more seasoning salt, a little more garlic. So what we're gonna do now is we have a pot of hot oil. You can use canola oil, you can use any oil of your choice. And we're just going to slice us up some habanero, Scotch bonnet pepper, and you'll add it to your oil mixture. And that'll be for a little flavor. Oh, let's turn this baby down. You'll take your red snapper and you'll just lightly dust it in flour. And what I mix my flour with, I use a little bit of smoked paprika. And you'll just get it all in the cracks and crevices. And you'll begin to fry your red snapper. Gently lay your snapper in, but lay it against, so that way you don't get an oil splash. So while this one is cooking, I'm gonna lay this bad boy now right in here. You don't wanna mess with it too much. You'll take out your Scotch bonnet and just let your fish cook. And I'll say, these babies will be ready to turn in about 5 or 6 minutes, just depending on how your fish is. So throughout the course of us dating, I lied and let her know that I needed some papers to stay in the country, and she used to take me down to immigration. And so this wasn't like a 1 or 2 step process. This was months and months and months that I carried on the lie floor. So one day she took me down, and what I would do is, when she would take me, I would take the train home, and then I would come back. So Shelly will wait in the car for hours and hours and hours while I was in immigration handling business to stay in the country, because now at this point, we were dating, she was in love, I was cooking, and you know how that goes. And so it got so bad to the point that one day she came inside of the immigration office to see what was taking me so long. Want to give these babies a nice turn. And I would say, turn the flame up a little bit, be very delicate, so that way the snapper does not break. So through the course of Shelly Ann taking me to immigration to help me get papers, one day I took too long and she actually came into the office to see where I was, to check on me to make sure everything was okay. She came into the office, obviously I wasn't there, and she ran into one of the attendees that was in the hallway that always used to greet me when I would come in for months and months and months. And so the young lady says, "Hello, how can I help you?" And Shelly Ann says, "Me looking for me husband." And so she said, "Well, who's your husband?" "The big tall guy The one Alpha come here for months. And so she said, well, ma'am, do you have a picture? Do you know his name? Obviously, she gave them my name, which wasn't really my name. And so the lady was like, oh yeah, he's been coming here for months. The guy, he's 22 years old. Now, mind you, Shelly Ann was about 45 and she had no clue how old I was. She said, oh no, I'm in love with a man nearly twice my age. Ultimately, I got busted. Shelly Ann and I broke up, but this dish remains in my heart and I'm sure in her stomach forever because she was a big, frowsy, stinking girl. So now we took our pasta, we strained it, and we're just gonna pour our cream mixture. Look at all of that gooey goodness all over the pasta, and make sure that we evenly incorporate this. Fold it in, fold it in. And it's always better to make more of the cream because obviously what we do not want is dry pasta. And so you give this another stir. Look at all this goodness. I wish you guys could smell the snap. It smells amazing. Add you a little bit more sauce. Continue to fold this baby in. And the beauty of this dish is quick, it's simple. It has lots of layers, lots of flavors that you're building on. And just for me, if you want something quick, simple, and something that's gonna keep your woman at home, make this pasta. So to this pot, we're gonna add our green peppers, red peppers, right on the side. Look at that. You want your snapper to be super, super, super crispy. And it's crisp, look at that on both sides. That's what we want. That crispy, golden goodness. And I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about when I say crispy, golden goodness. Look at that. So we're gonna take these out because we're gonna use these for color and flavor. And once you take these peppers out, I guarantee it'll make your dish go ting-a-ling-a-ling. School bell a ring. Look at that. Look at that. So now your snapper is almost done. I think another 2 minutes on each side and we lit. So you're gonna take your pasta and heavy cream mix and add it into your bowl. You wanna make sure that you take some peppers. If you're a pepper lover, add them in. If you like, and if you're not a pepper lover, you don't have to add these in. And what I do suggest is just folding this in so that way it's nice and evenly incorporated. We're gonna take us some mozzarella cheese and just give this a little sprinkle. Here goes the best part of this dish, a little more cream. Fold all of that creamy goodness in. Give it a stir. Give your snapper a lift. Golden brown on each sides. We're gonna add this baby directly onto our pasta cream mixture. Look at that. Look at that. Take your snapper and you'll put one down here, put one down here. Hit it with a little bit of mozzarella. And we're gonna take this cream sauce and just give it a nice little drizzle. Look at this. Our creamy Mr. Loverman pasta. This is the dish that got Shelly Ann going crazy. Shelly Ann, if you're watching, baby, I'm still in love with you, girl. And I'm a love. Once again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Style in the Kitchen, Soul on the Plate. I am Chef B, and this is another amazing dish that you have to try at home. Please do not forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. And until next time, peace.